and welcome back to Trains Up North. Once again, you join me here in Brewery Junction signal box. Today, we're going to be doing some shunting on the main line. Now, before you start typing away in the comments saying, Trains Up North, the railway would never do that. I just want to point out that this isn't a real signal box, and this is for illustration purposes only. It isn't likely that we would do this at Brewery Junction, but other signal boxes where the track layout is different, it is possible. And let's face it, if it wasn't ever going to happen, it wouldn't be in the rule book. So it can and it does happen. Yes, we would normally try and do shunting and things like that and sorting our trains out in sidings, but sometimes engineering trains, for example, you can't. I want to also point out that this is based on current absolute block principles. Yes, they're still used. And as we progress through the series, we'll look at upgrading the signalling system, and we're going to look at other aspects of signalling. So we might have this signal box used part-time if traffic to the brewery decreases. Or we might get rid of it completely and put an intermediate block in instead. Could put grain frames in. The possibilities, they're almost endless. So if you've got any ideas, stick them in the comments section below. So 3 things that we're going to be doing today. Blocking back inside home, blocking back outside home, and running around the train. So I'm going to go through each of these with different scenarios, and hopefully by the end of it you'll have a little bit more knowledge. Right, let's get into it. So as we know, these are our home signals, and beyond the home signal we have a 480 yard clearing point. This is due to us having semaphore distance signals. If we're going to be obstructing the clearing point, for example during shunting, then we're going to be blocking back inside home. The way I remember it is we're blocking the line, we're going to be in the wrong direction, so it's back, and we aren't going past the home signal, so we're inside the home. Thus, blocking back inside home. Before we can do this, we need the other signaller to agree, remembering that the section belongs to both of us. So if we're affecting the section, we both need to agree. So I can hear somebody now shouting, you're inside the home signal, so you're not in the section. It's correct, we're not. But if there was a train in the section, it'd be approaching our home signal. And for it to do that, we need to have that clearing point free. So we are affecting the section. As the other signaller can refuse, we cannot use this for emergencies. So if there's an emergency we need to block the line, we wouldn't use this, we'd use a different method. So in our first scenario, let's assume that signalling engineers need to work on the line and have asked us for protection. So I've linked this to the previous point about upgrading the signalling. It's like I planned it. We could also use it for working of rail movements and things like that, so shunting things, engineering trains, whatever. But for now, engineering works suit our purposes. So we check that the block indicator is at normal, and if it is, fantastic. If you have a train in section or about to enter the section, we won't be doing this. We're then going to call attention to green lane, who reply. We then ask, can we block back inside home? 2-4. If they agree, they're going to repeat it back. And the block indicator is going to change to train on line. Now, that isn't because there's a train actually on the line, but it just stops the signaller putting another train into that section, or a train into the section, and it just acts as a reminder, because if they're going to start forwarding a train to us, they'll see that there's a train online and they'll go, oh, train online already, what's going on? And it just acts as a reminder. At that point, we can then speak to the PICO on the S&T guys. That's the person in charge of the work. And we can let them know that we've got a block on the up main, but the down main line is still open to traffic. We do not want to have any miscommunication when it comes to safety. I have been there when I was told the line was clear and that could go on. And it was, other than the Class 68 that came past us. Once the signalling engineers, so the S&T guys, have finished, they're going to speak to us at Brewery Junction signal box. And they're going to let us know that they've finished and that all staff and equipment is clear of the line. We'll confirm that with them and repeat it back so there's no miscommunication. And then we're going to call attention to Green Lane. And once we know they're there and listening, we're going to send 2, pause, 1, pause 2. So obstruction removed. They will repeat it back and the block indicator is going to return back to normal. We can then go back to plain trains as normal. So we're also going to be making a log of this in the train register. So anytime we send a bell signal or train passes or anything like that, we write it down in a book called the train register. If you want me to show you what a train register is and how it works, post a comment and we'll do a video on that. So that first one, really simple. In our second scenario, we're going to be blocking back outside of home. Now this can only be done for rail movement, so we can't do this for engineering. So let's pretend we have a train in the sidings. The wagons at the front need to go on the back, and for whatever reason the other sidings are unavailable. So they might be out of action because they're having maintenance done on them, or they might already have wagons and things in the sidings, so they can't physically put anything else in. So in this scenario, the driver tells us that he's going to need to go into the rear section due to the length of the train. So this is setting back outside of home. Again, we're setting back, but this time we're going beyond or outside the home signal, setting back outside of home. So again, we're going to check the block indicator as before. We're going to call attention to Green Lane, but this time we're going to send 3, pause 3. So can we block back outside of home? The signaller at Green Lane must ensure that this isn't going to conflict with any other movements. So what do we mean by that? Well, in areas where we've got short sections, the train entering the section in the wrong direction, so our train, could pass inside the clearing point of the previous section signal. Sounds complicated, that, doesn't it? We can only use the clearing point once, and it must be clear to accept a train. So if you have a train approaching this section signal, even if it's not going to enter the section, we need to have that clearing point free. And if our train's going to block back into it, then it's not going to be free. So in that scenario, the signaller at Green Lane must refuse our train movement. I hope that makes sense. So basically, if our train is going to obstruct another clearing point that the signaller at Green Lane needs, he can't accept our train. He's going to refuse our train and prioritise his. Having checked that they can accept it, Green Lane is going to repeat back 3, 3, and the block indicator is going to be changed to train online. This time there is going to be a train in the section. It's going to be ours. We then authorise the driver to complete the shunting movement. We'll give them instructions such as they're authorised to proceed into the section in rear for a maximum of 100 yards. So we'll decide how far they need, and if they only need 10 yards, We're not going to say you can go in for 100 yards. We might say, yeah, we'll give you 20 or 50 yards. Just so they've got a bit of margin for error. Where this move might be quite frequent, we could have a limit of shunt marker on the up main line. This is only going to be visible to drivers going in the wrong direction, and it could be a board with limit of shunt or shunt limit written on it, or it could be two red lights side by side, and no part of the train must pass this point. Once completed, the train leaves the section, so we could send 2-4 to green lane to change it from blocking back outside of home to blocking back inside of home, or if the clearing point is once again free, we could send 2, pause 1, pause 2, so obstruction removed, and this lets green lane know we've finished and we can go back to normal. Again, they'll acknowledge it and the block indicator will go back to normal. I just want to have a little pause now, just to give you a couple of minutes for your mind to sort of relax a little bit after that, because it is quite intense and complex when you're new to it. And I just want to say a big thank you to those who have subscribed. If you haven't, hit the button so you don't miss one of these videos or the progress on my layout, Northern Junction. Now, it's almost a year since I released my first proper video, and I hope the quality has improved over the past 12 months. I'm still learning, so feedback is welcome. And yes, it would be nice to hit that 500 subscriber milestone. Currently on 400 and odd at the time of recording. So if you can help me get to that 500 for a couple of weeks' time when I'm going to do the birthday video, I really appreciate it. Right, let's get back to signalling trains. So this time we have a train in the sidings and it's going to be going to green lane. But the loco's on the wrong end and we can't propel all the way to green lane. So we can't send it with the wagons first all the way to green lane and beyond. So what do we do? Well, firstly, what we're going to do is pretend that we have a crossover at Redfield. I messed up a little bit when I drew these track diagrams and I should have put one in for this sort of scenario, but I didn't. Let's pretend I did and I got it right. So we're going to speak to Redfield on the phone and we're going to let them know what we're doing. So we'll send the appropriate bell code saying signal required on telephone, and they'll phone us and we'll say this is what we're going to do. So what are we going to do then? Well, we're going to offer the train to Redfield as normal. Now, bear with me, because it will make sense. Once the train has entered the section, it's going to stop. The wagons are going to be secured and the loco detached. So we want to make sure that the wagons are secured, because the last thing we want is wagons rolling down a main line. It's a bad day when that happens. The loco is then going to run to Redfield without the tail lamp, because it's not a complete train at this point. Remember, we've left wagons behind in the section. Redfield, when the train gets there, or loco rather has got there, is going to send 2, pause 1, pause 3. Locomotive arrived, which we're going to acknowledge. So now we know that the loco has got to Redfield, but we've still got the wagons in the section, so we're still going to have train on line. The tail lamp is going to be replaced on the loco, and it's going to cross over the crossover onto the main downline, or down main rather. Redfield is going to offer us, surprise surprise, a 2 3 light locomotive, which we accept. And we put our block indicator to line clear. They clear signals, train enters section, they send train entering section, we acknowledge it, we put our block indicator to train on line, and train. I keep saying train, it's not a train, it's a locomotive. The loco comes towards us, and we're going to leave signal 5 at caution, and when the train is at or almost at a stand, we're going to clear signal 6. The loco passes signal 6 and draws up to signal 7, which is our section signal, where it's going to stop. We put signal 6 back to danger, and as we've done this and the clearing point is free, we're going to send train out of section to Redfield and put the block indicator for the main downline back to normal. So down main is free, block indicators back to normal, and as you can see, that's just like any other movement. We reverse points 11, and then we're going to clear signal 12 for the loco. Hopefully by now the driver has changed ends and it can set off without delay. As the loco clears signal 12, we're going to return it back to danger, and then we're going to authorise the driver to pass the up main section signal at danger to enable them to connect to the wagons. Now we're going to tell them that there's wagons in the section, they know that, but we're going to remind them anyway. And we're not putting the points back to normal at this point, we're going to leave them in reverse because we're going to go through them again in a minute. So loco draws up to the wagons, they connect the wagons up to the loco to make it into a train, take all the handbrakes off the wagons, make sure there's a tail lamp on the rear. The driver then speaks to us in the signal box and says, "Signaller, this is the driver of whatever train. I'm now ready to depart." We're going to clear signal 8 and we're going to offer this train forward to green lane. Once green lane accepts it, we can then clear signal 7. Now what we might do is forward the train and get it accepted by green lane before we start clearing signals, because if it's a heavy freight train we don't really want it to be starting and stopping, so we'll clear signal 7 and then we'll clear signal 8, just so that once it starts rolling, it's rolling and it's just going to continue and not stop. And again, signalling it forward to green lane, it's just like any other train that we've signalled before, so nothing special there. Now after the train is clear of the up main, so the section's clear, we're going to send 3, pause 2, pause 3, train drawn back, clear of section, and we're going to send that to Redfield. They're going to repeat it back to us and the block indicator is going to go back to normal. It's simple really, right? So if the train hadn't entered the section prior to the loco detaching, then we could just signal this to Redfield as a light loco and we won't need to do anything else other than signal it forward as normal as a light loco, and it would go up to Redfield with its tail lamp on the back as well, because at that point it would be complete. and then it'll come back to us on the other line again, just like we've just done. As I've said before, signalling is all about logic and some simple rules, but don't worry if you haven't understood everything. Watch this video again and hopefully it'll start to make sense. Sometimes with signalling you're thinking, I don't have a clue and I don't know why, and it just doesn't make sense, and then all of a sudden it clicks and you sort of go, oh yeah, that's simple. Why didn't I get that before? Or at least that's how I've found signalling to be. And I'm not that smart, I mean probably average intelligence, but you know, if I can do it, you can too. If you haven't seen my other videos in this series, there should be a link on the screen now, and if you've liked this, then you should like them. And if you've already watched them, it's always good to give your brain a little refresh, so go back, watch them again. If you like the video, don't forget to hit the like button. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments section below. Do you want me to cover something in particular? Let me know and I'll prioritise it if I can. Feel free to share the video, so if you've got friends and family or colleagues or whatever that might find this useful, let them know. Share the video, share the channel, spread the hobby. Follow me on Facebook or X. I'm Trains Up North on both, so fairly easy to find. Thanks for watching, thank you for subscribing, and until next time, goodbye.